Hello everyone. Today we will be looking at the coding implementation of artificial neural networks using standard libraries. For implementing, I have used Google Colab. You can use other platforms like running on your local machine, or you can also use Kaggle kernels. So let us start on Google Colab. So I've created a new Colab notebook, and we first start by importing some standard libraries. So I have used TensorFlow and Keras for implementing the neural network architecture. It's your choice. You can, for your first project, you can just start building your own neural network from scratch. But as you go further, you need to learn and use these standard libraries, since that will make your work faster. You will see in the code that all the theory you had learned, all those equations, and you don't need to mention all of these things. All of those are just handled by 2 or 3 lines of code, and your work will be very simple if you implement these standard libraries. So let us begin with the code. First, I have imported NumPy and Pandas for handling the datasets. I imported TensorFlow and from TensorFlow Keras. I have also implemented Matplotlib for plotting, and I have also imported layers. So layers is basically for adding layers for a neural network. Okay. Next, we load our dataset. We have used the fashion image dataset, which is the standard dataset available on Keras. So you can directly get it from there with this command. No need to download anything. But if you are doing it in a local machine, I think you need to download it. And then I've split it into a train and test dataset. Okay, now we'll look at the shape of our dataset. So trainx.shape gives the shape of our dataset. So you can see it is 60,000 by 28 by 28. So 28 by 28 is actually the size of one training example, and we have 60,000 of these training examples. What we need to do is we need to categorize all of our input into these classes, which is t-shirt, trousers, pullovers, dress, coats, and so on. So in total we have 10 classes. 1 2 3 4 5. Yes, we have in total 10 classes, and we need to classify them. So basically this is a classification problem. Now let's take a look at each of the dataset and what image they actually are. So suppose I've taken the third example and I've plotted this. All these commands are used for plotting. So you can see that this looks kind of a skirt. And if I change this to somewhat maybe 50th example, then this one is not very clear what image this is. Let's change this to something else. Okay, these things look like a pullover. Most of these images are not very clear since it is a very low resolution. This looks like a sandal, and let's see one last image. Okay, this looks like a pullover or a t-shirt. Okay, next we'll scale a dataset. Since you know that our dataset contains pixels ranging from 0 to 255, representing each pixel in the image, so it is better if we divide all of those by 255. So I have done exactly that. Trainx I have divided by 255, and testx also I have divided all of the inputs by 255, and then I have got the input shape of one training example. So how I have done is using list comprehension. So for x for x in trainx.shape, so you already knew what was trainx.shape. It was 60,000, 28, 28. So from that I have extracted 1 till last. So I have extracted these two, 28 and 28, and from that I've made a list. So when we print out the input shape, we get that it is 28 cross 28. Okay, now we have looked at a dataset. Now we'll start building the model. So this is how we create our neural network architecture. We start by defining an object model, and from keras.sequential we start adding layers. So this is the first layer, layers.flatten. So what this does is we have our image in a 2D array. So we take all of those and just flatten out, like make it into a one column. So that is what flattening means. For this we need to give the input shape, which goes from here, which is 28 plus 28 is passed as the input shape. So this input shape has only to be given to the first layer, and the rest of the layers can find it out themselves what will be the input layers for each of those corresponding layers. Then we do batch normalization. So using batch normalization helps us getting to our accuracy, the desired accuracy, much faster, since it is easier for the model to train on a normalized data set. And next we add dropout. So let me explain what dropout is. Normally in a dense layer we connect all of the neurons in the previous layer to the next layer, but when we add dropout, not all neurons from the previous layer are connected to the next layer. We skip some of those. So when we do layers or dropout 0.3, that means that 30% of the connections are not made, and those 30% are just done randomly. Those 30% of the random connections are just removed. And okay, 30% of the connections are removed for each forward propagation. Like for the first propagation, some random 13 connections are removed. Then for the next forward propagation, those same connections are not removed, some other set of connections are removed. So every time forward propagation is made, 30 connections randomly are removed, not those same 30 connections. Okay, so I have assumed that you have understood what dropout is. Next we add a dense layer of 128 neurons, and the activation is ReLU. The most common activation we use is ReLU. Sometimes we use tanh, but here we use ReLU. Next we can add a dropout, but while I was training I saw that it had high bias. Okay, one more thing, that adding dropout acts as a regularization parameter. So if you think that your model is overfitting, then you can add dropout to add a sense of regulation to your model. So since I had added while I was training previously dropout and I had implemented dropout here also, then it was giving a high bias. So let me remove it altogether. Then I have done batch normalization. Then again added a dense layer of 64 units, and again activation is ReLU. And then let me remove this one, this I have also not used. And then again batch normalization, and finally I have added one more dense layer of 10 units, and the activation is softmax. Since we need to classify our images into 10 classes, so that's why I've used softmax. If it were a binary classification, then we would have used a single unit, and that would be that sigmoid activation. So with this you can see how easy it is to add layers to our neural network. So let us run this cell. After that we need to compile our model. We have used an optimizer Adam. We have used the loss as sparse categorical cross entropy. So for this classification types of problem we use this type of loss, and the metrics I've used as accuracy. So you can look at what types of losses to be used on what type of data sets in the Keras documentation. They have given all the information. regarding on which type of data sets you should use what type of losses and metrics. Okay, then finally we'll train a model. So we do that by history equal to model.fit. We pass the training parameters. So we'll also print out the validation, loss and accuracy. So that's why I have passed the test data set. Number of epochs I have made as 20. Epochs is actually one forward and backward propagation across all the training samples is one epoch, and we do 20 such epochs in our for our training. And verbose equal to ones mean we will keep on printing the accuracy and the losses, and all of these are just for printing out for these are for plotting and printing the minimum validation loss. So let us run this. It will take about 2 or 3 minutes to train the model. You can see this is the first epoch. This will take some time for the model to train, so we need to wait. Better you can skip this part. Okay, so our model is trained. You can see that this orange line is the validation loss or the loss on our test data set, and the blue line is the training data set loss. So you can see that the training set loss is continuously decreasing, but the test set loss after maybe about here it has almost become constant, and the gap between the training and the test loss is increasing. So if this gap keeps on increasing, then it's a high variance problem and we need to avoid that. So for that we can do is we can do early stopping. So we can stop our model maybe about somewhere here. So how you can implement early stopping, you can just read it in the docs. There are some 2 or 3 lines you need to add and you can do the early stopping. Okay, and initially you can see that the validation loss is lesser than the training set loss. So this is a rare case, and maybe one reason is that since we have added a dropout in our model, it is happening due to that. Since we are using dropout, so while training some of the connections are not made, so those features may be skipped, but while calculating on the test, dropout is not implemented and all the connections are made. So maybe due to that there is a better accuracy on the test set, but generally it is seen that the validation loss is generally higher than the train set loss. Okay, so we have trained a model, and next we'll see how we predict. So we do that by model.predict and pass the test set and we get the predictions. So let us see how the first prediction looks like. So since the last layer was a softmax function, we get the output as something like this in the form of an array with 10 numbers representing the 10 classes. And what we do in softmax is the value which is the highest, we take that as the output. So how we implement that is np.argmax, means it takes the maximum, and yes, the maximum will be our output. So I have printed our predicted label and the test label, which is the actual one. So the first one is the predicted one and second one is the actual one. So let us see. So for the third example, this one matches, so our model predicted correctly. Let us look at some other example. Okay, for this also it is same. Let's look at something else. Yeah, you can see that the accuracy is high, So most of the time we are getting the we are predicting the right output. So this was all about how we implement artificial neural networks. We have seen how we can implement batch normalization as well as dropout, and we have also seen how we can plot the graph and see whether we are having high variance or a high bias. So with this I would like to end this presentation. I hope you have understood the implementation. Thank you.